Hey everybody, it's Kate the West Coast Paper Crafter, and you are joining me for project number 2 with my Otterly Adorable card class at home. I've got all the pieces cut out and ready to go. If you are watching on YouTube, you're going to find the measurements and the supply list in the description of the video. And if you are catching this video in Facebook, then there's going to be a photo image with all the measurements that you can use to cut all your pieces before we get started. So I'm just adjusting my camera slightly and we will get going. So I am using the Otterly Amazing stamps and dies, as well as the Designer Series paper, the Lost Lagoon soft cording, and the Irregular pearls that all come in the Otterly Adorable Suite. If you don't have these products, then use whatever you have in your stash and your cards are going to turn out just fine. All right, let's get going. So to start out, I have got a basic beige card base. This is 4 1/4 by 11, and it is scored at 5 1/2 on the 11-inch side. I've got a piece of Pool Party. This is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. A piece of the Otterly Adorable Designer Series paper. This is 4 by 4. And a piece of Calypso Coral that's 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. I've gone ahead and cut out 2 otters from the Designer Series paper, and we'll use those in our card. And to start out, we're going to do just a little bit of stamping in Balmy blue on this Designer Series paper. So in this stamp set, there's a super cute little bubble stamp, and I really wanted to incorporate it into at least one of the cards that we'll be making in this class. So this is it. So we're just going to ink up in Balmy blue and then just randomly stamp some bubbles on the paper. Okay, so that's all we need the Balmy blue for. I'm going to close up that ink pad, get it out of the way. And then the next thing we're going to do with our Designer Series paper is use some of the die cuts to cut out some slits in the paper. And we're going to use those slits to tuck in the otters. And we're also going to use this die as well. All right, let me get this out of the way. I'm going to bring up my cut and emboss machine. Just got to move some stuff out of the way. All right, so I've got my paper. I'm going to add this die. Now this die is going to cut just some slits in the paper. So I'm going to put that at the top. And then this die is going to cut out some goldfish shapes, and I'm going to put that in this corner. All right, we'll roll this through. It's probably going to shake the camera, so I apologize. I'll try to be gentle so I don't shake the camera. All right, that's all we need the cut and emboss machine for. All right, so now our paper looks like this. I've cut out, as you can see, lots of tiny little goldfish. I do not need those for this card, but I have been saving them because I thought they would be really cute to put into a shaker card. Okay, so now what I want to do is tuck my otters into these slits in the Designer Series paper. So I'm just going to get an idea of where I'm going to put them, and then I'm going to glue them into place. right, I think like that. Yes, that will do. Okay, so now what I want to do is just grab my glue, and I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the bottom of this image, and then I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to add some glue to the back side. So when I tuck this in, I'm going to be able to glue it to the inside, and I'm also going to be able to glue it in place to the front of that designer series paper. I'll do the same thing with this one. I just want to figure out where exactly I'm going to put him. All right, so I'm going to add just a little bit of glue to his tail, and then I'm going to add some glue to the back side, and this will be the part that's going to stick onto the front of the designer series paper. All right, so there. Now it looks like our otters are partially in the water. All right, so now I'm going to glue this onto the Calypso Coral, and that way we'd get that pattern of the goldfish. So I'm not going to add glue to the Calypso Coral. I'm going to add it to the back side of the designer series paper because I don't want any glue to show where the holes for the goldfish are. All right, I think I've got enough. I probably have more than enough. Now, the designer series paper is just slightly bigger than the Calypso Coral. All right, so once you have it where you like it, just gently press down if you're using multi-purpose liquid glue and let that tack. All right, here we go. So now we're going to mat this piece onto the pool party. I'm just going to add some glue to the back side. And I have just this tiniest little border. It's about 1/16 of an inch. If you like more border, then just cut your designer series paper and Calypso Coral 1/8 of an inch smaller, and you'll have more of the pool party border showing. Okay, I have it where I want it. Everything looks good. Oh, I might be just the tiniest bit crooked. There we go. All right, now what I want to do is I'm going to take some of this Lost Lagoon soft cording, and I am going to wrap this around my layer a couple of times, and then you can either tie it in a bow or tie it in a knot, whatever you prefer. I'm going to try for a bow. Okay, so now I'm just going to push down on that knot, and I'm going to pull the tails of this bow just to make the bow loops a little bit smaller. And then I'm just going to manipulate it a little bit so I have the tails facing the way I want them to face. All right, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside just for the moment. I'm going to grab a Night of Navy ink, and I have got the sentiment, "You're Otterly Amazing." I am going to stamp this in the bottom right corner of my card base. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of this card. Sorry, to the back of this, whoops, to the back of this layer. So the reason I'm going to pop this up is because that cording is a little bit too thick to glue down flat onto the card base. Okay, I'm just going to add enough dimensionals so this layer doesn't sag. I know it seems like a lot, but I do like to put a lot of dimensionals on my layers. All right, so when I have a whole bunch of dimensionals, I find it very handy to use the pointy end of the Take Your Pick tool to stab those dimensionals and pull the backings right off. Usually it works like a charm, unless you get too many backings on like I just did, and then it doesn't seem to pick up as well. But it makes short work of pulling those dimensionals off. All right, so now I'm going to add this layer to the top of my card. I want about 1/8 of an inch border at the top and the sides. So I'm just going to try to position it as carefully as possible so I don't have to pull it up and reposition. Right, that turned out pretty good. So I've got just a little bit of a border at the top and on the sides, and then we've got the bottom open where the sentiment is. And the last thing that we're going to do is add some of the Riverside Irregular pearls. And these pearls come with the Otterly Adorable Suite. And they come in 3 different shades of, I would say, metallic. So I'm just going to add 3. And that is it. Card number 2. I hope you enjoyed this project, and stay tuned for project number 3. Thanks for joining.